I am a young, poor writer in Vietnam, a small country in Southeast Asia with endless rice fields, winding rivers, and crowded noisy cities. I was born into a poor farming family that struggled with the fields year after year. Since childhood I dreamed of holding a pen and writing stories of my own. I still remember the first time I borrowed an old book from a neighbor. Its pages were yellowed, the letters blurred from many hands before me, but I held it like treasure. I read it straight through the evening until late at night, forgetting dinner. When I closed the book, one thought kept echoing in my head: one day, I wish I could write like this. But such a dream was too far away for a child of poverty. Schooling was incomplete, conditions were harsh, and the path of words seemed like a cloud I could never reach. My friends of the same age went to factories or went abroad to work, while I clung stubbornly to writing as if it were a debt I had to pay. During the day I worked odd jobs. At night I returned to my tiny rented room on the outskirts of Hanoi. In the summer the metal roof trapped unbearable heat, and in the rainy season water leaked through every crack. My writing desk was a broken table picked up from the street. I typed on an old phone with a cracked screen and a weak battery. Some nights I fell asleep before finishing a sentence, and when the power went out I lit a candle just to write another paragraph. People often asked me, can writing put food on the table? I could only smile. What else could I say? I knew the answer myself. But if I gave up writing, I felt like my heart would stop beating. Sometimes I shared a few pages of my stories online. Almost no one cared. A few scattered views, no comments. I stared at the screen, feeling small and invisible. But then I opened a new page and kept writing. Even if no one read it, I still wrote, as if writing only for myself. One day someone suggested, many people are making YouTube videos now, why don't you try? I was confused at first, but then I thought, why not? I saved up to buy a cheap microphone and learned to edit videos on my phone. The first video I posted got only a few dozen views, most likely from me replaying it. Still, I felt happy. At least I had taken a step toward making my dream of words real. That night, sitting in my stifling little room, with the fan rattling in the corner, I thought to myself, no matter how poor I am, if I do not protect my dream, then I will have nothing left. And so I began to write, my life chronicle, to tell the journey of a poor writer in Vietnam, struggling and stumbling, yet never giving up. In Vietnam, the worry of bread and rice follows me every hour. During the day I take whatever job I can to earn money. Sometimes I drive a motorbike taxi, sometimes I work as a construction helper, and some days I carry goods at the wholesale market. The pay is little, just enough to cover rent, a simple meal, and send a small amount back home to support my parents. There are days I work from morning until night, sweat soaking through my shirt, my hands burning from lifting heavy loads. In the evening I eat a cold box of rice bought from a street stall, then sit in front of my old phone and type a few lines. I know I am exhausted, but I still cannot stop. Often I wonder, if I just worked like everyone else, maybe life would be easier. But inside, one question always echoes: if I don't write, then why am I living? My tiny rented room is only a few square meters. A small fan rattles in the corner, a thin mattress lies on the cold tile floor. My meals are often just leftover rice with fish sauce. Yet when I pick up a pen or place my fingers on the keyboard, I feel warm again, as if I am living another life. Bread and rice force me to bow my head, but the dream of words lifts it up. I tell myself, poor or not, I must live, and I must write. Because only when I write, I feel I am truly myself. OK thumbs up min say dik chuong 3 kan phong tro chat hep sang tiang an, bo het do gachen gong de ban du avao ap doc van ban cho muat. My rented room is tucked deep inside a narrow alley on the outskirts of Hanoi. People call the whole row the workers' dorm, with damp walls and old corrugated roofs rattling whenever the wind blows. My room is barely 6 square meters, just enough space for a small bed, a wobbly wooden desk, a corner with a rattling fan, and a few boxes of old clothes. In the summer, sitting inside feels like sitting in an oven. Sweat runs down my back, the fan spins at full speed but only blows hot air in my face. In the winter it is the opposite, the cold wind slips through the cracks of the door, and my thin blanket cannot keep me warm. On heavy rainy nights, water leaks through the roof and I have to place pots and pans to catch the drops. The sound of rain beating on the metal roof, mixed with the dripping water, becomes a sad kind of music. Many nights I sit at the shaky desk, the dim light of my old phone glowing, typing each word to the sound of the fan and the falling rain. At times I feel like a lost soul, trying to write stories to chase away my own loneliness. My friends of the same age already have stable jobs, some even have families. I am still here, in this cramped room, bent over my words with no idea where they will lead. Yet it is here, between these stained walls, that I have nurtured my dream of writing. Small and shabby as it is, this room is the only anchor for my hope to be a writer. Someone once told me, everyone is on YouTube now, why don't you try? At first I only laughed. I knew nothing about recording, editing, microphones, or voice work. But the more I thought about it, the more I felt I should try. Maybe my dream of writing could find a new path. I saved what little money I had and bought a cheap microphone from an electronics market. Back in my room, I spent the whole evening struggling to set it up. My old phone kept freezing, its battery drained quickly. Yet when I finally saw the first words appear on a video screen, my heart filled with a strange joy. That night I recorded a short piece. My voice trembled and broke, mixed with the rattling sound of the fan in my room. But when I pressed the upload button on YouTube, my heart pounded as if I had done something grand. The next day I kept checking my phone. 10 views, then 20, and finally 30. I knew most of them were from me replaying it, but I still felt happy. For the first time, my words did not just stay hidden in a notebook or on my phone screen, but actually appeared somewhere others could see. There were no comments, no subscribers. But I still smiled. To me, that was already a beginning. A small door had opened, leading to a road still covered in fog. I told myself, maybe no one will care, maybe no one will listen. But if I never try, no one will ever know about my dream. That night, in my cramped little room, I stared at the cracked screen of my old phone, its dim light reflecting my tired face. I smiled, a smile both clumsy and hopeful. And I knew, my YouTube journey had begun from that very moment. Since I started writing and trying YouTube, I realized there is an invisible distance between me and the people around me. My friends are busy with stable jobs, some are preparing for marriage. My family only wants me to have work that pays enough to stop chasing foolish dreams. Once I excitedly told a friend, I just uploaded my first video. He only laughed and shrugged, these days everyone is on YouTube. How many actually become famous? Then he switched to talking about salaries and bonuses, not even asking me another question. I stayed silent, but inside my heart sank. My family was more direct. You need to think about your future, about getting married and having children. Can writing put food on the table? Those words repeated again and again like a sad song, keeping me awake many nights. I knew they cared about me, but the sorrow was that no one truly understood the dream I was chasing. Some evenings, after a day of exhausting labor, I came back to my cramped room, turned on my phone, and saw only a few views. No comments, no one interested. I sat alone, listening to the wind outside, my heart heavy. Sometimes I asked myself, why am I trying so hard? Does anyone understand or care? But then, in that silence, I heard a small voice within me, even if no one understands, you must keep writing. Because writing is the only way to speak your true self. So even in sadness, even in loneliness, I kept going. I accepted that there are sorrows no one understands, but that does not mean my dream will be forgotten. There are days when the money in my pocket is just enough for the cheapest meal at the corner stall. Cold rice, a few slices of pickled vegetables, and some greasy pieces of pork fat already turning stale. I sit quietly in my dark rented room, chewing while the old fan rattles in the background. Many people would call that suffering. But I think differently. The hardship of a poor meal is easier to bear than the pain of abandoning a dream. I accept eating cold rice as long as the dream of writing inside me stays hot. After the meal I pour a glass of water, place my phone on the desk, and open a blank page. Words appear, clumsy but sincere. My heart warms as if the whole room lights up from the faint glow of the screen. Sometimes, deep in the night, my stomach growls with hunger while my mind races with ideas for a new character or story. I understand clearly, I may still be poor, still be hungry, but as long as the dream burns, I still have a reason to keep going. Cold rice does not make me despair. On the contrary, it reminds me that I am living for real, struggling for real. And on this hard road, those simple meals become silent witnesses to a burning dream that has never cooled. There are nights when I sit at my shaky wooden desk, the dim light of my old phone glowing, my eyes heavy with sleep but my fingers still trying to type every word. Outside, dogs bark in the distance and trucks rumble along the highway. Inside, it is only me and the fragile dream of words flickering in the yellow light. Sometimes I look up and see that midnight has long passed. Yet in my heart there is a strange excitement, as if when the whole world sleeps, only I remain awake with my sentences. There are nights when I write without noticing the time. When I finally lift my head, dawn has broken and birds are singing outside the window. I have not closed my eyes but must already leave for work. My body feels drained, my steps heavy, but deep inside I carry a quiet joy. At least I kept the promise to myself not to leave my dream unfinished. There are also nights when no words will come. I sit frozen in front of the screen, my mind blank. Exhaustion pushes me down, but thoughts of an uncertain future and past rejections make me grit my teeth and type a few more lines. They may not be good, may not move anyone, but they are proof that I did not give up. Sleepless nights have become a habit. I know my health is wearing away each day, but I also know that without these nights, my dream of writing would never take shape. In the darkness and silence, I hear my own heartbeat, mingling with the soft tapping of the keys. And I understand, it is these sleepless nights that are slowly weaving the life of a poor man who refuses to abandon his dream. After many sleepless nights, I gathered the clumsy pages I had written and chose one short story I thought was the best to send to a literary magazine. It was the first time I dared step out of my cramped room of words and place my work before others. On the day I sent it, my heart pounded as if I were waiting for exam results. I imagined the editor reading it, nodding, then calling me to say, "Your piece has potential, we will publish it." In my mind I already painted a dream, thinking maybe this would be the start of a bright path. But a week passed, then two, then a whole month, and there was only silence. No reply, no message. I tried to comfort myself, thinking maybe they were busy, maybe my story was still sitting in a pile of manuscripts. Yet deep down, I knew the truth, my story was not chosen. The feeling was like being drenched with a bucket of cold water. I had poured all my hope into this first attempt, only to receive absolute silence. That night I lay in my dark rented room, staring at the stained ceiling, my heart heavy. I thought, maybe I have no talent. Maybe this dream is too far away. For a moment I wanted to throw away my pen, delete every draft, and pretend I had never started. But then I picked up my phone and reread my old lines. Clumsy as they were still a part of me. And I knew if I quit now, I would regret it for the rest of my life. My first failure did not kill me. It only made me realize that the road of writing is long and full of obstacles. And if I want to go to the end, I must learn to rise again from every stumble. During the day I take any job I can to earn money, driving a motorbike taxi, carrying loads, working as a construction helper, delivering packages. The work is unstable, here today and gone tomorrow, and the wages are so meager they never cover even my small desires. There are days when, after working hard from morning until night, I hold just a few $100,000 in my hand. Before I can feel happy, it is already divided, part for rent, part for food, part sent back home to my parents. What remains is almost nothing. Enough to survive, but not enough to breathe. I remember once standing outside a bookstore, staring at a newly released novel. The price was only a few $100,000, but to me it was as unreachable as a dream. I stood there for a long time, then quietly walked away. In my pocket was only enough for dinner. Meager wages force me to count every coin. Sometimes I must choose between buying a hot bowl of noodles or saving that money for a phone data pack so I can download writing materials at night. I choose the data, then eat cold rice with fish sauce. But when the phone screen lights up and words appear, I feel my choice was right. Life is difficult, but I understand. I am still here, still struggling forward. And most importantly, those meager wages, though they cannot make me rich, are still feeding a dream that often feels too far away. In days when I thought I was completely alone, I unexpectedly met another friend who was also chasing a dream. He was a few years older than me, worked freelance, and lived in a small rented room no different from mine. We met by chance, during a chat at a sidewalk tea stall. At first it was only casual questions. But when he learned that I liked writing, his eyes lit up. He told me he too was trying to write, that he had even sent manuscripts to some publishers but was always rejected. We spent the whole afternoon sharing our sorrows and unfinished dreams. From that day, we became kindred friends. Some nights he came to my room with a bag of roasted peanuts and a bottle of iced tea, sitting down to hear me read my latest draft. He gave feedback, praising this part, suggesting changes to another. I also read what he wrote and pointed out what could be improved. We laughed together, sighed together, and kept our faith alive that someday words would guide us forward. In the sweltering heat of the rented room, with the fan rattling loudly, we still talked with passion about characters, plots, and new video ideas. Neither of us was rich, neither was successful, but his presence made me feel I was no longer alone. People say that in a life of hardship, finding someone who truly understands you is already a great gift. And I knew that in this struggling life, I was lucky to have a kindred friend. After many days of uploading videos with only a handful of views, I had almost grown used to the silence. Every time I checked my phone, the numbers stayed the same, barely moving. But one evening, just as I was about to turn it off and go to sleep, I suddenly saw a new notification. A stranger had left a comment, "Great, keep it up." Just a few words, yet my heart raced. I read it again and again, afraid that by morning the words would vanish. The next day there was another comment, "I like listening to everyday stories like this. Please continue." This time, I almost cried. For the first time, I truly felt that somewhere out there, someone was listening, waiting for me to tell the next story. Those comments brought me no money, did not free me from poverty. But they were like small lamps lighting up my dark room. They reminded me that I was not alone on this path of words. That night I sat again in front of my phone, writing a new script, polishing each sentence more carefully. I told myself, if there are people waiting, I cannot be careless. And from that moment I understood. Sometimes just one word of encouragement, one nod from a stranger, is enough to give me the strength to keep walking this difficult road. While I was happy to receive my first comments, my family grew more and more worried. Every time I called home, my mother would ask, "Have you found a stable job yet? If you keep writing like this, what will your future be?" My father spoke less, but his voice grew heavy whenever he mentioned marriage and family. He sighed, "A man must build a career, must be able to provide for a wife and children. If you just sit and write all the time, how will you live?" I knew they did not mean to criticize me. They were only worried, but their words still cut into my heart. At night I lay in my small rented room, staring at the stained ceiling, my chest heavy as stone. On one side was my dream of words, on the other the expectations of my family. I was torn, not knowing which road to take. Sometimes I wanted to put down the pen and find a monthly job that would ease my parents' worries. But then I thought of the few comments on my channel, of the joy I felt when words appeared on the screen, and I could not bring myself to stop. Family pressure kept me awake many nights. I knew my parents only wished me less suffering, less struggle. But I also knew if I gave up my dream now, I would spend the rest of my life merely existing, not truly living. So I decided, I would work hard to support my parents, but I would never give up writing. Because it is not only a dream, but the only way I can hold on to my true self in this life. That day, rain poured from early morning. It fell endlessly, flooding the narrow alley that led to my rented room. I put on a thin raincoat and waded through the water to work, only to be told, "No work today, the construction is paused." That meant losing a day's wages, the small amount I had counted on to cover my living costs. I returned home soaked and disheartened. As I stepped into my room, my phone slipped from my hand and hit the wet floor. Its screen, already cracked, now showed a long dark stripe. I tried to turn it on, but it only flickered before dying. All my drafts, voice recordings, and unfinished videos were trapped in that lifeless machine. That evening I sat alone in my damp little room, the rain pounding hard on the corrugated roof. The power went out, leaving everything in darkness. I sat there listening to the storm, feeling as if the whole world had turned its back on me. No work, no phone, no clear future. I thought, maybe I should stop. Maybe I chose the wrong path. The thought pierced my mind like a cold wind. Raindrops leaked through the roof into metal pots, the sound like mocking laughter. Yet in that moment of despair, I realized I could not quit. Even if I lost everything, I still had my hands and a heart not yet cold. I picked up an old sheet of paper, lit a candle, and kept writing. That rainy day felt endless. But it taught me that when everything else abandons you, there is still one thing left to hold on to: faith in yourself. After that long rainy day, I thought everything had ended. My phone was broken, my work unstable, and inside me was only weariness. But just when it felt like I had fallen into complete darkness, a small ray of light suddenly appeared. One evening I borrowed my kindred friend's old phone to upload a new short story. I had no real expectations, treating it only as a way to keep my writing habit alive. But the next morning, when I checked, the number of views had risen unexpectedly. Some people had even shared it and left messages. This story really touched me. I read those lines again and again, my heart racing as if I had found treasure. Just a few shares, just a few comments, yet they had the power to sweep away the heavy gloom that had weighed on me for so long. I realized that out there were still people waiting, people who cared about my words. Few as they were, their presence was proof that my dream was not entirely meaningless. That night I wrote until late, not feeling tired, not feeling sad. In my heart, a small ray of hope had lit up. And I believed, as long as I kept that flame alive, the road of words would continue to open before me. Even with a little hope from comments and shares, my life did not become easier. Rent still had to be paid, meals still had to be covered, and most importantly, my aging parents in the countryside still needed my support. Each time I heard my mother sigh over the phone, "We've run out of rice, I'll borrow some from the neighbor tomorrow," my heart tightened. I knew that no matter how hard things were for me, I had to find a way to send money home. Not much, just enough for a few sacks of rice, but it was the only way I could fulfill my duty as a son. There were days when I had just received my wages, and before I could buy myself even a new shirt, I hurried to send money back home. Poverty forced me to give up small comforts in exchange for the peace of mind in my parents' smiles. Many nights I thought, if I only lived for myself, I would have given up writing long ago. But because of family, I cannot let go. That responsibility was both a burden and a fire that pushed me forward. I knew clearly the road ahead was still long and full of hardships. But as long as I remembered that behind me were my parents waiting, a home that needed my support, I would not dare to collapse. The weight of family pressed heavily on my shoulders, but it was also what kept me standing, ensuring that my dream did not wither in this struggling life. There are nights when I turn off the light and lie silently in my cramped rented room, listening to the wind whistling outside the window, my heart feeling strangely empty. My friends are busy with families and jobs, while I have only 4 stained walls and an old phone. I ask myself, if one day I stop, if I no longer write, will anyone notice? Will anyone remember me? That thought drags me down, as if all my efforts are invisible to the world. Sometimes I curl up under a thin blanket, trying to sleep, but sleep never comes. In the darkness I hear clearly the beating of my heart, reminding me that I am still alive. But what meaning does this life hold if no one listens, if no one understands? Then I sit up again, turn on my phone, and open a blank page. I type word by word, as if talking to an invisible friend somewhere out there. I may not know their face or name, but I believe that somewhere, someone will stumble upon my words and pause for a moment to listen. Lonely nights make me feel small and fragile. But they also teach me that a dream does not need crowds, does not need applause. As long as I keep writing, I still exist in my own way. One evening, while scrolling through the few comments on my YouTube channel, I suddenly saw a message longer than usual. The writer introduced themselves as a listener who had stumbled upon my story. At the end, there was one line that stunned me: "Your story made me feel lighter. Thank you for writing." I sat still for a long time, reading those words again and again. After so many weary days, after endless lonely nights, those words felt like a hand reaching out to lift me up. I never imagined that my seemingly meaningless lines could touch another heart. That night, I could not write another word. I just sat quietly, letting tears roll down my cheeks. Not tears of sadness, but tears of gratitude. For the first time, I realized that writing was not only to fulfill my own dream, but could also bring a little warmth to a stranger. From that day on, whenever I grew tired, I remembered that single message. It became a light guiding me through the fog, reminding me that even if only one person listens, what I am doing already has meaning. Even with one supporter, even with a few words that once brought me to tears, I know clearly that the road ahead of me is still long, very long. The struggles of daily survival still surround me, and worries about the future still hang over my head. Some days I work from dawn until night, and when I return I still try to write a few more pages. The exhaustion piles up, but when I remember that message, I tell myself, if I give up now, then all my efforts will mean nothing. My YouTube channel is still small, the views still modest, with no sign of success yet. But I no longer despair as before. Because now I know that at least I am not alone. Somewhere out there is a pair of eyes watching, a heart listening. I have begun to accept the truth that success does not come in a day or two. Writing is not a path lined with roses. It is a long, difficult journey, and I have only taken the first steps. At night, sitting in my cramped little room, I look at the faint light of my phone screen and smile. I whisper to myself, the road is still long, but I will keep walking. Slowly is fine, as long as I don't stop. One morning, after waking from a restless night, I looked at myself in the mirror. The same thin face, the same dark circles under my eyes, but in my gaze there was a little more determination. I realized that even though I had nothing in my hands yet, I had already gone further than the day I first started. In the past, I wrote only to satisfy my own passion, hidden in a dark room where no one knew of me. But now I write with the belief that somewhere out there, someone is listening. That change is small, but enough to make me see this road as no longer hopeless. I began to reorganize my life. Working hard during the day, writing at night, spending weekends learning how to edit videos and adjust audio. Things that once felt strange slowly became habits. I felt myself growing, even though the road ahead was still full of hardships. I knew this journey had only just begun. Success was still far away, like a mountain hidden in the mist. But I had already taken the first steps, and the important thing was that I was no longer afraid. Inside me, a voice whispered, I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but today I have gone further than yesterday. And that alone was enough to keep me going. As I write these final lines, I realize that this journey is not only the story of a poor writer in Vietnam, but also a story of faith, perseverance, and dreams that refuse to fade in a difficult life. I know I am not successful yet. I have no fame, I have not escaped poverty. But at the very least, I have not given up. Every page written, every video uploaded, every sleepless night is proof that I have lived true to myself. If you are reading or listening to these words, I want to say thank you. Thank you for giving your time to an unknown writer like me. Your presence has turned my lonely path into a road with light. And I also want to leave this message: if one day you feel tired and want to abandon your dream, please remember my story. I too have been discouraged, I too thought of stopping, but a few words of encouragement, a few looks of empathy, were enough to carry me forward to this day. Finally, I only hope that if these stories have a little meaning to you, you will support me, a new Vietnamese writer, with a small subscription or a simple share. That will be the strength for me to keep writing, keep telling, and keep living with the dream of words. Because sometimes, just having one person listen is enough to keep a dream alive in this world.